Okay, just bear with me a second, guys. I'm just trying to see what is going on so we can get it started over here on Facebook. So I'm gonna remove it. Ah, oh, give me a second here, guys. I'm over here messing up. I am. I'm trying to add it to Facebook here. Yes. And it is not acting right now. Okay, let's see. I think I have to remove it and re-add it. Sorry about this. All right, let's see if that works. Let's see if we can get them started here. All right, I think I got it. Let's see if it, yes, I got it. All right. Sorry about the technical difficulties. My name is Lashade Scott. I am the CEO and president of Scott Center for Observation, Treatment, and Transition. And today, this is the last day of Social Work Month as well as Women's Month. And we have such an amazing person on the call today. And I may be biased, but you guys. So, today, as you know, we are interviewing Chelsea Parker, going from medical diagnosis to social worker. She is a sickle cell advocate and warrior, a mentor, the owner of a couple of businesses. So one is her Beaded LLC, where she makes handmade jewelry, and she's a visionary for her podcast called Authentically Us. She is also a LLMSW, so a master social worker, and a first generation college graduate. But more importantly, she is my mentee, and I am so happy to have her on this call tonight. So you guys are gonna learn a lot about Chelsea, but I'm gonna just give y'all a little secret. She is very shy, but I love Chelsea. Just to give like some backstory, I met her at Eastern Michigan University, where we both attended school. And I just so happened to do a panel discussion, and that is when I met her. She came up to me after the panel discussion was over, and I just fell in love with Chelsea from that day. And I pretty much just kind of took her up under my wing, and I'm always looking for ways to empower her and just show her the ropes, because in our community, that's just something we really have to continue to do. Bring those that are younger than us up and, along for the ride. So thank you for joining me, Chelsea.
Thank you for having me here. This is amazing. Like this whole series, I didn't watch a few of the episodes and I'm like, this is amazing. Like I love that you do this and I'm so proud of you and seeing like how far you've gone and you got so much more to go. But I just really appreciate and being in the moment and able to see everything that you have going on. So I really appreciate you having me here.
Yes. So before we get started with our conversation, viewers, you are able to put messages in the chat. We are able to see them. If you have questions, or if you just want to shout Chelsea out, tell her she's doing great, whatever, you're able to put those in the chat. So we are here to be engaged. It's just a candid conversation. Nothing is scripted. It's just basically we're feeding off each other's energy and just giving you guys enlightenment on sickle cell and just things that are going on that you should be like privy to. So moving forward, I guess I want to start with how did you choose social work as your field?
Yeah, so I know everybody says this, and it could be cliche, but I don't think it is. I feel like social work chose me. And honestly, I didn't know that I was going to go into social work when I first, went to school. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to help people. So I thought about like being a nurse. I thought about being a pediatrician. I thought about being a dental assistant. And then it all boils down to social work when I took one class at WCC, which is Washington Community College in Ann Arbor. That's why I first started at. And I took a class there and I was like, I do like social work. And I don't know, it's just always been prevalent in my life as far as like me helping others or people coming to me about anything. Like people will randomly come to me and talk to me about stuff. Like always been like the person that people would come to and ask for like, advice or just in general. And I'm the oldest of my siblings. I have an older brother on my dad's side, but he's like a few months older than me. But it was just like everybody just came to me and I was like, okay, I got to get some resources for my family, for people, and I got to help them. And I had a passion for doing that. So yeah, social work chose me, honestly.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So let me ask you this. In being a first generation college graduate, I know the pressure had to be on.
Yes.
So how did you one balance the pressure of that,
Mm,
then the fact that you do have this diagnosis of sickle cell disease, and then please let our audience know what type of sickle cell you have too. But
yeah.
how did you balance being able to do both or uh maintain, just your mental health?
Yeah, so I have sickle cell SC, which is the milder form, but I still had, all of the mental and physical things going on with me during that school period. And how I balanced it, I would say I made sure that I took care of myself. I mean, of course, with school, you get so deep into work and not thinking about yourself. I would say, in order for me to not have any issues, I was just able to take care of myself when I felt was necessary before I felt it coming, or just in general. I just made sure that I was looking out for myself. Probably like at the on a weekend, I'll like do something for myself, like have fun and not finish my homework like on if I had something due on Monday or something, I will finish it on Sunday and I'll just take time for myself. It was kind of hard once I started getting into the full time because like I started off part time at WCC and then I transferred to Eastern, so it was kind of hard trying to maintain all of that and do my work and so it wasn't easy. How I did it, it was just I don't know, I did it. A few times I was in the hospital and my teachers like were very helpful. They knew about my professors. They knew about. I told them up front like about me having sickle cell and like things that could happen, and they were very like reasonable. And that was the best thing about being in like a close knit small class. Like social work, we had really small classes. It wasn't that big, so I was able to really just advocate for myself, and that's what helped me out more.
Yeah. That's good that you knew your limitations on things. At least that's what I think I heard. Like you knew your
Yes.
limitations and how to maintain. And I'm pretty sure, even for people that don't have sickle cell, it's a challenge. School
Yeah.
is not. Some of us we make it look very very easy, but then we know people do have struggles. Just in
Yeah.
daily activities. So the fact that you were able to do it all and actually thrive and you've completed, um that's a testimony within itself.
Hmm.
Oh, we have an audience member, Miss April. I do not have sickle cell disease, but my son has SS. Thank you for what both of you are doing. Okay, yes, thank you. I understand. Yeah, even though you may not be the warrior, raising a warrior is a job within itself.
Man.
It really is. It's a job within itself. Um, so so technically we're warrior moms. You and I,
Mhm.
Miss April. But yes, so I want to go back to another piece, Chelsea. So
Okay.
we know, being a Black woman,
Mhm.
there are a lot of things. There's a lot of pressure with just being a woman, but then being a Black woman, right?
Agreed.
Um,
Agreed.
and now, you know, you add a diagnosis on top of that,
Mm.
right? What is your thought process to what I
Whew.
just what is your thought behind that? Like, there's just so much to
Unpack.
yes. I couldn't even get the
Yeah.
word. Yeah.
It
Um,
really is. Like my thought process when I think about that, I'm like, dang, like I have to be strong. Like if I break, okay, so thinking about just me in general as a person, I've always been strong. I had to be strong. And sometimes, you want to be in your femininity, like, and be soft. But like, I feel like if I had gotten to that point, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at now. But just thinking about it, being a Black woman and having stigmas surrounded with that, and then also having stigma surrounded with having a disease, and just things that I don't know, it's just a lot to put on a person. Like I don't think anybody really understands truly what we go through. Like nobody will ever understand. And that's why when we do go to these hospitals or like just in around people that don't have it or don't understand, they don't look at us as a person. They look at us as just somebody there with all of these stigmas behind them versus like, oh, they're human. They're actually able to, like, even though they're strong, they still have, feelings that they feel on the inside that they don't show on the outside. So that can get really stacked up. And like that's why I ended up getting me a therapist because it's hard. It's not
yeah.
easy. We make it look easy, but it's not.
I honestly, and I've said this in a couple talks, that's really where Scott comes in.
Mhm.
Just tuning in, Scott Center for Observation, Treatment, and Transition. Um, there are a lot of stigmas and misconceptions behind adult patients living with sickle cell disease
Mhm.
being mistreated, especially in the ER.
Oh
Um,
man.
I heard you state this, and that's why I'm reiterating it. It is. But when we tackle or when we put our race into place, there's this perceived that because we're Black, we have tougher skin, we're stronger, we can tolerate much more pain.
Mm.
This is even outside of sickle cell disease. This is in childbirth.
Yep.
This is in, whatever, and I think we really have to educate our medical professionals. They need to take cultural competency
Yep.
courses, implicit bias trainings, things like that, to be more aware of how they are treating the patients. The reality is, you have been born with this diagnosis, so you've been maintaining it your whole life.
Yes.
You are the expert of your health and the
Uh-huh.
things that impact you. You know what works, what doesn't work, because you've been in this body your entire life. And I
Mhm.
think once medical professionals have that level of understanding,
Right.
there wouldn't be a huge gap in
Right.
how treatment is. But we know systemic racism plays a huge part in how things are. They're different because hematology and oncology patients share the same clinic, yet they have way different treatment
Yep.
of departments. And that's just really mind blowing to me. And although
Yeah.
at you, we can't tell that you have sickle cell disease, but that should not make me or any professional say, hey, well, she look all right. She okay. I've seen it to where patients can be playing a video game and they think that they're not in pain, but we all know that people do things to keep their mind off of the pain.
Yep. Exactly.
What did our audience say? She said, you are hitting on all core issues. They need continual training, not just one time. Absolutely,
Yep.
definitely not one time. I am actually, just in my own field, I am actually providing trainings. I sit on multiple boards with medical professionals to make sure that I am explaining what's needed, what the gaps are, how they are creating barriers for these patients. It's a never ending cycle for sure, so we have to continue to keep having these conversations and keep reiterating why they are important. People have lost their lives due
Yeah.
just the negligence of
Yes.
addressing what's going on in the forefront. If a patient is telling you this is what's going on, they need to really check into it and make sure that they're not missing the mark on providing adequate services.
And they don't do that. Like, they don't believe us in general. And we always got a lot of stigmas around us. And I've even heard this from nurses that just started. They were like, yeah, they, talk about how you guys have to be careful with the drugs that we give them. And just in general, like, what?
Yeah.
This is crazy. I was like, wow.
So we have mental health is real. We, Black people, probably all need therapy from the traumas of living in this society. We overcome so much, but still smile. But we are emotionally and spiritually hurt. Excuse me, spiritually hurt. I see
Preach.
no lie.
That is so true.
I see not one lie in this statement. The reality is, yes, but society makes
Makes
us
me
feel
family.
good. So Chelsea, you said something earlier, and I knew I wanted to get back to it. So that comment just sparked it back. You said I have to be strong.
Yeah.
Why do we always have to be strong? We can never
Right.
show any vulnerability. We can never have a moment of weakness. And I don't even want to say weakness, just being vulnerable in every aspect. But
Right.
the way we know that this is a historical issue that goes way beyond years from us, this is way before us. So we've always
Mhm.
had to make do, or we just had to continue within our as the let me go back to the comment, as our when we talk about mental health, right?
Right.
We talk about this. Us being social workers, we know what the root of the problem is. But then it comes to, when we talk about Black men and therapy and things like that, they don't seek it because
Mm-mm.
that that stigma of being, oh, you're not a man, or all of these different microaggressions that come into play. It's just a lot. I feel like our community, we haven't been conditioned
Right.
enough to therapy. It's a great alternative.
It is.
um I don't know. I hate that we feel that we always have to be strong.
Right.
I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. I try to come out of it. I know the one thing I have done is shape my boys' thought process. I don't,
Mm.
I tell them,
Mm.
cry. What are you crying for? Cry. I want you to have a reason. It's okay if something is bothering you.
Right.
Speak your mind. Tell me what's wrong.
That's important.
I don't ever want them to feel that they have to always have their guard up.
Right.
A lot of trauma comes from,
Yeah.
just, societal. Sometimes it's the environment that you're in
Yep.
that causes certain things. So in my house, I know they get tired of me because I'm always like, well, share your feelings and well, what do I hear you say? And why are you like this? And I see it on your face, because I go into social work mode.
Yep.
I'm always trying, and not that I'm trying to fix them. It's just more so I'm really concerned because I
Yeah.
don't want my children to be, to the point where they feel that they can't express themselves, or whomever they decide to, be with. They
Exactly.
need to be mentally prepared or emotionally prepared to be able to have, healthy conversations and not shut down. So it's a whole whirlwind. Like when you think about all of these things, whether it's trauma, whether it's communication, I don't want to fall into these different stigmas, you
Yeah.
know.
And it's hard. It's hard that we have to be on guard about those because we feel like we don't want to fall into them, but people on the outside are still looking at us in that way. And it's like, why? Like, why can't we just be a human like everybody else? Like, we're all human, even though we have different color skin, and that's, what they use to kind of like divide us, like in general. And so that's where the divide comes from. And then when it comes down to us being scared and fearing, it's, that started like, of course, way beyond, but like when slavery came, like they made us be scared, like, and not realize that I mean, well, they did know that that was going to eventually have us be this way, but it really been like a generational curse pretty much. Like it just stayed in our family and stayed in our culture, and it never really changed. I mean, it's starting to a little bit, but I don't know where it's gonna go from now.
Yeah, I think we, when I say we, our generation, we have to change the narratives on
Yeah.
things. And that's what I feel like, in my household for sure. I was just talking to my kids. I said, you guys have way more than I had at,
Yeah.
and what I mean by that, and I'm not talking about material things. I mean,
Right.
they got that too, but that's not what I'm speaking on. I'm speaking on the fact that they're being raised in a two-parent household. I come,
Right.
I come from a single parent household.
Me too.
Father comes from a single parent household. You
Hmm.
know, my mom went to college, graduated. My dad didn't. They have two parents with master's degrees and things like that. So when we talk about breaking generational curses or trying to create, well, we're, their dad is like, I'm learning a lot from him, but he's learning different ways to create generational wealth for our boys. um so of course, it's really up to us,
Yeah, I
to
agree.
change it, because
I agree.
be we don't have to be that way. It's all on like restructuring your mind and how you move forward. And that's pretty much, when I do these talks, this is exactly why they're not scripted. I like that, like, touch on things that we probably wouldn't even potentially talk about,
Yeah.
in a more private setting,
Yeah.
but I think it's important for our community to know the things that impact us and that they're not alone in a lot of the things that's going on, because everybody doesn't speak about what they're going through, and that's a
No.
part of the trauma. That is a
Yep.
part of the trauma, you know so we have to
Let me
make
speak
sure that
about the good.
we have to make sure that we're still having these conversations on the forefront. um I want to change gears just a little bit.
Okay.
So, um, in spite of your diagnosis,
Right.
you did not let them define you. And I want to shed a light on a lot of the positivity. So, we talked about you being a master graduate.
Yeah.
Um, but talk to me about She Beat It and Authentically Us, your
Yeah.
businesses.
So she beat it. It started during the pandemic. So I was thinking about more of a body positivity aspect, and I was seeing like, women in Africa wear waist beads, or I seen this video that they were wearing waist beads, and I'm like, oh, I want to make some of those. I wonder like how they make those, or I want some of those. And one day, me and my friend, we had like a talk Zoom call. She was staying in Arizona, so we were like, have girl chat, and we were like making waist beads at the same time. And I was like, wow, I think I want to do this as a business, because I feel like during that time it was a lot of like women that we were just all in our homes, like it was during the quarantine, like nobody got out, we were all just at home. And like, I was like, this probably will make people feel like better about their bodies and like want to work out, or just in general have a body positivity aspect of it. And the to think about, the history of waist beads, and it comes from Africa, and how they use that as body positivity, fertility. It's like different colors mean different things, and that made me want to, start up a business with that. And then I was like, oh, I like beaded jewelry as well. I always liked it, like necklaces and bracelets, and all types of things. So I just started to go out and buy jewelry, and buy things, string and stuff to put it on. And that's what made me want to start a LLC. And I ended up applying for my LLC, and then I ended up naming it She Beaded, thanks to a friend of mine was helping me brainstorm different names for my business. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then also when I thought about the beaded part, like she beaded, like when you think about someone, even though it's not spelled like beaded, like Beated, it's like thinking about what are you actually beating in life, like when it comes to the stigmas as a woman, like you actually beat that, you beat cancer, you beat, this, like just being able to distinguish that from um things that have to do with women. Of course, like now the word she is starting to like change, and like everybody, with all the pronouns and stuff, that's changing. But ultimately it's for anybody. Like it's not like men can wear waist beads, men can wear beaded jewelry. So I just feel like it was something that made me feel good, especially during that time when I didn't have anything that I was doing. I was just working, because I was an essential worker, and I didn't have any time to like take off, because I still had to work during that time. So it was just like, all right, I need some mental stimulation or aspect to get me out of this funk. Cause I'm like, I don't want to work. Like, I don't, what if I get sick? I have sickle cell. I don't want to go to work. So that gave me like something to be like, okay, this is therapeutic. Cause I was still in school too. So it was just like a lot of stuff going on. So that's how that came about. And as far as Authentically Us, the podcast, I started it with my classmate, Malaysia Johnson. Me and her, we actually talked about it like so many times, because we would have conversations, and it'll just pop up, and we'd be like, we need to talk about this in a podcast, or we need to make a podcast. And so me and her ended up doing it together. And we're almost, well, to talk about that more. So like we called it Authentically Us, because we want people to come on there and feel like their authentic selves. We want them to come on and talk about things that they like, just like what we're doing now. Talk about things that they wouldn't normally talk about, and feel comfortable coming in and talking about it. And just any kind of, promote your business or whatever you want to come over there and talk about. We give our participants to come a chance to come on and talk about whatever they want to talk about. And then so we ended up starting that, and we're actually audio only right now, but we're moving to video for our second season. So we're almost done with our first season. So that's going to be 20 episodes, and we got one more episode. So check that out. And video is coming soon.
So I put Chelsea's Authentically Us podcast, and then her She Beaded LLC. So I'll leave that up there for a second. So let's go back. I heard you say that you was working during COVID.
Yeah.
With sickle cell.
Yes.
Now we know that a lot of patients, or maybe the audience doesn't know, but a lot of sickle cell patients, it's really hard for them to work due to some of the complications of having
Mhm.
sickle cell. Now, I'm not going to say all patients, but we
Right.
know that you guys, your breakdown of your red blood cells, they typically break down every 10 to 20 days, whereas individuals that do not have sickle cell disease, theirs breakdown, it's a longer period.
Yes.
So the fatigue, being fatigued,
All
chronic,
the
just
time.
chronic pain from time to time or all the time for some people.
Mhm.
How did you manage? How did you manage during COVID?
Oh my God, I was so scared. Like I did not want to work. I just was like really scared because like when the information about COVID was coming out, they were saying like, people with um what were they saying, like low immunity and like things like that, you guys have to be careful because something could happen. And I was just like always on edge every time. And I that also like when I was working, it was full time and I was in school at the same time. So I was doing online school and then working. And being able to manage that was really hard because I just really was like, I'm an essential worker, but am I really getting paid what I should, especially when I do have, sickle cell? And it's like they know, that I was and I could anything could happen. So like when it comes to jobs in general, I feel like they don't really understand as much. They can. It depends on the job. My
Yeah,
job, they didn't give us COVID pay or anything like that. So it was just like, wow. But it was just it was scary. It was nerve wracking. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was on the edge every day. Um, and my job is the type of job like it don't close, so you have to go. And that's what kind of made me be like, I want to have my own business. I was hoping that my business was going to take off and I was going to be done with, working at my job, but it just wasn't the right time.
no, and it may take a while, but I mean, I'm just speaking from somebody that opened their own nonprofit, so
Mhm.
things do take time, but never be discouraged. I see our comment. That was a wonderful concept to encourage body positivity. I would love to purchase
Oh
books. So
yeah,
I'm gonna put Chelsea's business back up so you guys can follow her on Instagram.
I'm
That's where
working
she
on my website right now. So it's almost done. I just got to take some pictures and post it on there. So my website will be up soon too. And
yeah.
I think the domain was going to be She Beat It. So I'll be posting that on my She Beat It Instagram. I stopped for a little bit too. Like I think once I got into U of M with my masters, I stopped that whole year because I'm like I need to focus on school, and so my page is getting revamped, and I'm starting to do everything new all over again. And then
Yep.
I just started another business too, so I'm like I'm trying to do everything, but I'm
Hey,
excited about everything that I'm doing. And that's traveling, so travel agent, hit me up if you want if you wanna book some trips.
that. I did see that. Um, so yes, we've talked about balance. We talked about your businesses, um, being a black woman. I'm just trying to reiterate some of the things we've discussed.
Yeah.
Being a black woman and having a diagnosis and what that looks like. So I guess what in a in the next 5 years,
Mhm.
what do you possibly see yourself getting into or doing?
Yeah, so I definitely want to okay, I'm a social worker, so, I definitely want to work on myself, of course, and then also helping others because I feel like you have to get yourself together before you're able to help others. So in that aspect of especially with sickle cell, like if I'm not doing the work when it comes to making sure that I'm eating healthy and doing the things that can maintain my sickle cell or at least trying, like I want to make sure that I'm able to do that before I started start working with people that also has been in my position, or like is trying to, or just found out that they had a diagnosis, or have, a family member that have a diagnosis. So I'll be able to give them more information about what they can do and what helped me. Like, not everything is not going to work for everybody, but I just feel like me being able to put that into somebody's resource bank, and help them with that. Also, just me in general, the things that I always wanted to do, um, being a social worker, is like help the youth. That's where it starts at. No matter what I'm doing, it can be with sickle cell, it can be with financial literacy, education, like how to be an entrepreneur, or even like people that were, you know, not able to figure out what they want to do in life, and I can like help them, like basically like a life coach type of thing is what I thought about doing. But like I said, I have to work on myself first more, and of course it's going to be an everlasting thing. I'm gonna always work on myself during that process. um Eventually, as my long-term goal, I want to have a resource center, so that way people can come and get different resources, like especially in the poverty communities, we don't have no resources. I grew up, in the project, so we didn't have any resources, especially thinking back to sickle cell. I didn't even find out, well, my grandma and my mom didn't even find out that I had sickle cell until I was 3 years old. And that was because I lived in a rural community where they didn't have much resources. And they didn't know about, these things. Like, we only had one hospital, which is now closed down. There's no hospital in my hometown. We only had certain things that we had access to that I couldn't really, I wish we would have had. So that way it would have helped others, especially within my community. Because a lot of people don't even, still to this day, don't even know that they have sickle cell, or ever look to find out, especially in my hometown. I know like one person in my hometown that know they had it. But, you never know. Like, other people probably do and don't even know it. So I feel like that resource center will give the communities a better like help. Like, we don't learn about financial literacy in high school or middle school or nothing. We don't learn about, sexual health anymore. So
Yeah.
like that resource center will have all of those things in there. Like, I'll have mentors, and like I don't know, just a big long-term goal that I want to do, because I feel like it's so important for our community. Oh, somebody
Great.
said.
I feel before you answer this question, journal, log. I got about 15 of them around here. Just write down your thoughts, because you want to make sure that you are clear on what it is that you are trying to, develop, right?
Exactly.
So one of our YouTube viewers are asked that, how did you communicate to teachers or employers about your condition? Was it easy, or did you get pushback?
So when I talked to my teachers, it was easy. Like, I was able to gain rapport with like most of my teachers. Like, I always sit in the front. Like, I'm not saying you have to do that in general. It just depends on the person. But I talked to them. I emailed them if I had any questions, but I let them know. I was like, I started with that first. I didn't just go out and be like, hey, I have sickle cell. You have to, you know, make accommodations for me. No, I just, talked to them, and then I talked about stuff in class, and they were very like open with receiving, especially if I knew if it was going to be a class that have a lot of work. That's what I would start with. I'm like, okay, it's going to be a lot of work. These are due dates. I just never know what can happen. So I'll talk to them. And then especially with my employer, I just told my supervisor, I just felt like, it was kind of like it wasn't negative. It was just like, okay, but you got to make sure you have a doctor's note, which is understandable. And I will have a doctor's note. But they were like, anything after this certain time, you make sure you have a doctor's note. I'm like, of course, I'm gonna have that. But even when I had like called in, sometimes like they're able to find other people to come and work, so it wasn't a big deal. But sometimes I would feel scared to call in. I'd be like, I don't think I want to call in. I it I'll be okay, like dumbing it down, to the point where like I started to be like, had to talk. My mom had to talk me out of it. She's like, no, you need to call in. Like, what are you doing? Like, So I
Yeah.
would kind of feel bad because I don't know why, but I wasn't getting paid for it anyway. Like it depends on the job, and that's why I was just like, I gotta be somewhere where I'm actually like represented and also like heard. And like a lot of
Mhm.
jobs are not like that. They don't hear you. They don't be like, oh, well, you have sickle cell, so I'm gonna help you out. They don't do that.
That's, on previous talks, I like a lot of the people that have been coming on are actually entrepreneurs themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I encourage that, not to say that you can't go out here and work because you have sickle cell, but I truly encourage the sickle cell population to tap into different ventures to
Yeah.
that they have some sort of income.
Yes.
Um, because we live in a world where people just don't care about people. And
Mm-mm.
everything is about dollars and cents.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the reality of what it is. Um, and I say that because, even though I'm on a different side of it, being the parent, I wasn't able to hold a job for 2 years because my son with sickle cell was in and out of the hospital all the time. So that opened up the door for me to go back to school. One, two, figure out some avenue, some different ways to maneuver and work, basically get to where I am now, and
Yeah.
I'm still figuring it out as we move day by day. I have the plan. It's
Yeah.
just, like you stated earlier, you thought that the business was going to take off. Sometimes things take time.
Yeah.
If everything happened quick, how are you gaining? How are you learning? How are you growing if everything just came to you like this, right?
Yeah.
That's not the reality of life. The reality is sometimes we do have setbacks. Sometimes
Yeah.
we do, things do move relatively slow. People always want to move fast. Oh, I need the money, 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 money. It's not always about the money, at least not for me. It's not always,
Right.
it doesn't come down to dollars and cents all the time. It's really about the product and the service that I'm able to give. So, I'd rather give you
Mhm.
quality, good quality
Right.
over quantity.
Facts.
If we only had one viewer, this is my real thought. If I only had one viewer, I'm okay with that because that's
Right.
one person I've taught something new. If I have 10 viewers, that's beautiful. If I have 50, so my whole thing is I'm not in the I don't
Instant
really
gratification. Yeah.
don't, because what I do is not self-serve. Let's start there. It's not self-serve. It's
Apologies.
to
Apologies.
serve a purpose or to give some type of avenue for patients that are dealing with this, families. You know, I've been reached out to personally about different, people saying these types of talks that I've done. I've been doing this even before I started the Let's Talk Sickle Cell
Yeah.
series.
You
This
have. Yep.
personal page during COVID was a
Mm-hmm.
real innovation of some of the work I was doing. And I even had people take the ideas that I did and create a whole conference behind it.
That's
But
amazing.
that's neither here or there, so my whole is, what I do is not for me, it's for the community, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um
Mm-hmm.
you said quality is always key. Absolutely.
Always.
Um
I think we just live in a generation where instant gratification is there. Like I feel like before social media or anything like that, time went and it just went. It wasn't like you cared about the time. Like, but now I feel like we just care so much about time that if it don't happen right then and there, then it's like it's never gonna happen. And I feel like that is not how we're supposed to think. And it kind of like messed up our minds in general, which I'm trying to get out of that because I feel like, you can't do something within 2 days. Like it's gonna take, I mean, it could take 2 days, but that's rare. But it could take 2 years, it can take 3, 4, 5. You just never know. And this
Yep.
generation is just like instant gratification all the time. because we have the phone in front of us.
Yep. And then I don't know if you remember like a conversation you and I had a long time ago. You was trying to figure it out. I said, Chelsea, why do you have to figure it out today?
Right. Yeah, you
You
did.
don't have to figure it out. I did not go back to college to get my bachelor's until I was 28 years old.
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
28. You know, that took 2 years, and then after that, went straight for my master's. So time, I'll be 36 this year. I'm still relatively young. I think I'm young,
Yeah,
I'm
you
still
are.
so I don't look at it as if you don't have to do things on other people's time. It's Yes, school, they say college, you're supposed to do it in what, 4.5, 5 years. But
Yeah.
here's the reality, the good thing about it. When you go to college, it's on your terms.
Right.
On your terms. It does not matter. It doesn't matter if you finish in 4 years, 3 years, 6 years. The thing is, long as you do what you are set out to do,
Mhm.
you understand what I'm saying? So we have to get out that oh well, this person finished it in 4 years. Oh, they bought a house at 20, or what is for them is for them.
Mhm.
Sometimes we are not even put in situations to be able to do what other people are doing. Sometimes
Right.
some of us are digging ourselves out of rabbit holes. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
we're already at a disadvantage.
Right.
Reality is you do not have to become your circumstance. So therefore,
Exactly.
you take the cards that are dealt and you create positive situations from those.
Mhm.
I never thought that I would be a mother of children with a medical diagnosis. Who
Mhm.
plans that? Nobody plans that.
Right.
But I did not let that deter me from my purpose. It did not.
Mhm.
If anything, it enhanced. I was already a busybody. Anybody that knew me from high school or whatever, they already knew I was already always a person that was involved in things.
Mhm.
But it just sparked more. I feel like my kids actually gave me more purpose in life. So sometimes
Mm.
our circumstances become our blessings.
Yeah.
Little. So it's really on how I believe in strength based perspective.
Approach.
You
Yeah.
know this as a lawyer. So I don't take my situation lightly, but I also do not dwell in it. I am a person that's going to find solutions and ways to integrate or implement, different practices amongst individuals in this community. So I'm always trying to be innovative
Yeah.
to reach the population that I need to, right? Our viewer said here, people want the microwave way of life. However, oven bake is where the
So
success is.
success
I
is
like that. I
period.
like Yes, it is. That is so true. That is so true.
I
Um,
think when it came down to me, I'm like the first generation graduate and I'm like the oldest. So it was like a lot of pressure that we don't talk about often, just in general when it comes to the person that's trying to break the generational curses. Like it's so much pressure on us, and that's why we kind of like gotta dig deep in within and like slow down because it's gonna come. You just have to make sure that you are actually knowing what you're gonna be doing versus like just like she said, doing the microwave thing. Like, okay, we come up with idea, put in the microwave and it pop, and maybe it'll burn, and maybe it'll not even move as fast as you want it to. So it's just like
yeah,
you have to really focus on your end goals versus like and then also taking it day by day because I had to learn that too. Like taking it day by day is so important versus trying to force yourself to do it.
yep, yep. I honestly, that's my logic. At the end of the day, one step at a time. Although I am a person that thrive on doing multiple things at one
Right.
time, but if I tend to feel overwhelmed, then I'm like, okay, let me regroup. Let me step back.
Mhm.
Um, and I am learning within myself. I do not have to save the entire world. I'm learning this. I don't have to save the entire world at one time.
What you doing
One
today?
I really do because I see so much. I just have so many goals and aspirations and the visions that I want for this particular population. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't think people really understand the concept behind it. Like we are talking about a disorder. Some people say disease, disorder. I go back and forth. We this is a chronic this is a chronic condition you were born with,
Yeah.
and it impacts over 100,000 Americans. Right,
Right.
1 in 13 African Americans have sickle cell trait.
Mm-hmm.
I keep saying this statistic because I don't think people are hearing me.
They're
I
not.
keep because there is no way that our community should not be informed on sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease.
Right.
No way we should not be informed. It's one of the one of the most chronic disease that impacts our community at large numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I keep referencing this. I went to school with someone. It might have been more than just this person with sickle cell. But he was the only one that had kind of spoke up that he had it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
None of us asked him how he was doing. I don't recall any students saying, "Are you okay? Are you?" I don't recall. So we have to normalize that this is happening right up under, right up under our nose. We have sickle cell trait impacting you in Michigan right now. I was a Detroit native. We talking about sickle cell trait well over 40% of the population.
That's crazy. Wow.
Cell trait.
And nobody knows about it. Like even if I have said it like so many times, people be like, "What is that? What is that?" Like especially like Black people, I be like talking about it and I tell them about it, and they be like, "Oh wow, I never knew anything about that." And like even in my social work classes, like nobody knew nothing about it. I'm like, wow, this is
So the crazy part is people. So there's over. When I tell you this number, you're gonna drop. There's over 250 different hemoglobinopathies. So over 250 blood. Okay. Um. So we talk about sickle cell trait, and as you stated to the audience that you are SC, so that means one parent has sickle cell trait, one parent has C trait.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two different types of blood types, blood traits. So it just goes to show you, even with saying that, because I've been told, in the past, like, well, make sure you don't have a baby with someone with sickle cell trait. Okay.
Yeah.
But what does that entail? And
Right.
what more we need to know? Because I still didn't really understand fully. I was not, I had an idea, but I
Right.
did not understand fully what that meant.
Right.
So that is why it was my mission to get involved with the local high schools to talk about these, because we know most of those students are more than likely sexually active.
Yeah.
I think that it's important to have those conversations when they're doing putting squares. Let's talk about probability. Let's talk
Right.
about it, because having that experience and knowing what I know now, I mean, it wouldn't change. My kids would still be here. Let me just say that. But
Yeah.
knowing what I know now, I think I would have been a lot more prepared for what was to come down the line.
Mm. Yeah.
But the education wasn't there. And be that Detroit is such a huge population with trait carriers and things like that, they should have been in the school districts were really educating up front, but they did not. And that's where I say there's a loss of translation. I mean, yeah, they did the parenting courses at newborn, once you got your newborn diagnosis, but where's the follow-up? And this is no attack on Detroit. This is just, I'm speaking on my own
In
experience because
general,
that's
yeah.
where I'm raised. But this could be in other states as well. What is the follow-up process? I know what it is here in Ohio because I work for another agency currently at this time where we are doing, the newborn screenings, and there is a follow-up piece because my mentor is making sure those follow-up pieces are being done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the state of Ohio though. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure how it looks across the board somewhere else, but we need to be very intentional on being, having collaborations and making sure that we are doing some of the same things on the forefront, because here's where I say things get lost in translation. So if one person is doing something over here, that person not doing it here, they may have their own process. How is this working when people are transitioning?
Right.
You lived in a rural area.
Yeah.
You had to deal with a hematologist, locating one, or
We had to
you,
drive far.
it's just there's disparities even within the chronic disease that you already are experiencing. So in that point, you're experiencing environmental, uh challenges and things like
Yeah.
that. Like, it's just a lot. It's just a lot that's attached to it. And I don't think people really understand
Mm-mm.
how detrimental that is to your health. So, we use this word a lot as social workers, social determinants of health. Um, if you were having that problem, how many other people were?
Right.
And what was the health outcomes for your other family members? Do they have trait? Do they have disease? So it's kind of like, I'm pretty sure there were other people that have experienced some of these same,
Same thing.
inequities across. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely made me look at it and think like it's a lot of people, because especially me, I never even talked about it. It's a lot of people that don't even talk about, themselves having it, or don't even realize that how serious it is. And so, especially if you stay in a rural like area and they don't have transportation to get to there, they just let it happen. And, I've known a few people that didn't even know they had it until, or their children had it until they were like, "Oh, she's sick, but we don't know what's going on. We're gonna take her to the hospital." But the hospital is like 20 minutes away. So it's like, okay, we gotta figure out how we're gonna get there and the ride, and like how is this going
Yeah.
to happen for us to understand? Like, and then they don't give no more information about it in general. Like if you go to a regular hospital, they don't have that. They don't really, they be like, oh well, figure it out pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know we're coming up on our time. So um before we end, the viewers that are watching, um living with sickle cell, not living with sickle cell, what would be your advice to them as someone who may be struggling to figure out, you know, what their goal is in the next year, you know, whether that be school or what would be your words of encouragement for them?
I was just saying, keep striving and do your best. Like, we live in a society, like we were just talking about, where everything is like microwavable, but don't even think about that. Just know that as long as you have a goal and you're striving for it, it can happen. Like whether you want to go to school, whether you want to go to college, whether you don't even know what you want to do. I think it's just important for you to bet on yourself and just move forward with the things that you love. Like that's so important. Like I went into social work because I loved it. So it's important to do what you love versus like what you see everybody else here everybody else out here doing. Just do what resonates with you, and don't let nobody tell you that that's not what you should be doing. Just strive to do whatever you want to do. Don't let nobody in your ear or let nobody tell you what you can't do, because that's not true. You can do whatever you put your mind to. So whether you have a disease or you don't, like, you can do whatever. Don't let that stop you. And physically, it probably try, but you got this.
Great words of encouragement. And what a way to end Social Work Month as well as Women's Month for
Yeah.
March. Once again, I told you Chelsea is my mentee, but outside of being my mentee, she is a sickle cell warrior and advocate. Um, she has two businesses. Her She Beaded and
Like,
you did. I'm sorry. She just became a travel guys. Yes, I gotta start saying it. So this is
no, it's
her.
going to take some time getting used to it.
Absolutely. So you can follow Chelsea again at authentically.us podcast and at She Beaded LLC, all on Instagram. With that being said, subscribe to the YouTube channel Scott Center OH. This is where all of the videos will be, or our Facebook. You can go hit the link to follow at Scott Center for Observation, Treatment, and Transition. So before I end, April is Minority Health Month, and Scott Center for Observation, Treatment, and Transition. We are highlighting Minority Health Month by in our efforts to raise awareness on health disparities that impact people of color. I have an amazing lineup you do not want to miss. I have about 8 different talks that will be going on. You just really don't want to miss the chance to oh yeah, happy Women's Month and beyond. Thank you. You don't want to miss the chance to hear a lot of these conversations. Once again, Let's Talk Sickle Cell Series is an unscripted candid conversation amongst people in the communities, whether that be legislators or warriors, parents of warriors, just a plethora of like knowledge and people who bring so much. So you do not want to miss that. Like I said, that is the entire month of April, which is Minority Health Month. So thank you guys for tuning in to Let's Talk Sickle Cell Series here at Scott. I'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.